Hi everyone. Well, I'm wearing my special African vest, which is so brightly colored. I love the colors. And a necklace I bought there actually, that just on the last day when I was heading to the airport. And then, do you like my earrings? Anyways, because I want to talk a little bit about Africa just before I talk a little more of COVID. So in Africa, I found out yesterday through an email that the Islamist insurgency in northern Mozambique is doing its stuff again. And there were recorded 52 young people who had died, mostly beheaded, because they wouldn't join the terrorists, and which are probably affiliated, they suspect, with ISIS. So we aren't hearing much about ISIS right now because so much of the world is focused on the COVID-19. But for the rest of the world, especially Africa and other countries, there are so many other things that they have to deal with, as well as sickness and disease. So I did hear again as well from my friend Pastor Alan in Eldoret, and they're right in the middle in Kenya of the flood season, the rainy season. It's flooding really badly in that area. And so many people in the Eldoret area have lost homes. In Western Kenya, there's been many deaths attributed to the flooding. So just things to take your mind off COVID before I talk about COVID. Anyways, that's why I'm just honoring my African friends today who sometimes get forgotten. So I want to talk about Sweden again. It's really hard to figure out what's going on in Sweden. Hard to get a real story. There's lots of theatrical headlines in the media that Sweden's going to go over a cliff, and it's led by a maniac from the Minister of Health. Is a maniac. That's a quote. Anyways, a renowned German infectious disease expert said that anti-COVID measures in Sweden are grotesque and absurd and very dangerous, and the life expectancy of millions is going to be shattered. Is it true? Is it true? Well, I think we're all watching the numbers coming out of Sweden this week and over the next couple weeks, because our lives may depend on it. Really. What happens in Sweden is going to probably change some of our thinking. That's my expectation. So the Minister of Health says just yesterday that the curve is very flat. It's very good news. And that in Stockholm, apparently there have been no new cases, no rise in new cases at all. So let me get that straight. No rise in new cases. Things have flattened out. Now, let's talk a little bit about their precautions. They did tell people, if you're 70, isolate. But they didn't mandate it. People can go out if they want, but they're responsible for their own health. Hey, that's a good idea. I don't mind, being told if you're over 70 or you're over 65, almost, that you should isolate. I think that's pretty common sense. If you know that there's going to be something that's going to affect a particular population, that it would be wise. So they didn't mandate it, but they did suggest it for those individuals. Certainly. And those are the ones where the deaths have largely occurred for the seniors. Also those who have other comorbidity issues, obesity, heart problems, lung problems, those kind of things. They are more vulnerable. That is a given. But what they're saying is, what the Minister of Health says is that there's no crisis, there's been no crisis. No death spikes as predicted. No national emergency, and no shortage of hospital beds there. So that's interesting in itself. But I want to talk about children, because I think this is something that is very interesting. Children remained in school in Sweden. The schools were not closed. And so they went to school every day. And no children in Sweden caught any form of COVID-19. How could that be when they're, kids? I mean, kids are kids, touch, play, let's just, be together, arms around each other, but there was no COVID in the children. So there, in a school in Finland, there was a report that a child was infected, but no one else got the infection or got sick. The child didn't even get sick with the infection, so I'm not sure how they knew he was infected, but I don't know that. Data from Iceland and other places points to the fact that children are not contagious. And here we are, all of our children are at home. So everyone with lots of children at home, I'm so sorry. Because look, if this is in one country, why would it be any different here? Anyways, so the country didn't lock down its people. And there hasn't been any region of the country that has reported any rise in catastrophic medical preparedness. And that's by their emergency services personnel speaking. So it has been a different trajectory. What is still to come will be, remain to be seen in the next 2 weeks. Will probably tell the whole story. But don't wipe Sweden off because you're listening to all of the media hype, because a lot of it is hype. And when we're pounded every day with death statistics, and what's kind of happening out there, in the major cities particularly. Because in rural areas, and certainly look at Saskatchewan, they are already wanting to reopen. I don't know if they're going to be allowed by our Prime Minister, but other areas of the country are looking at reopening. And what will that mean? Well, thinking about immunities and what I have heard, and because we've been locked down for so long and people haven't been out and about, there's likely to be an upsurge again, in one sense, because we're going to go out and we're going to be interacting with people. That means we're going to contract stuff. But you know what? I think you have to just count the risk. Isn't that what we always have done with anything in life? There is a risk to living because you're interacting with other human beings. And so anyways, that's all I have to say for today. And talk again soon.